Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about something that's usually always in the news, but there's a lot more news that's going to be coming out on this. And this is Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, because I'm seeing a lot go on in their charts. And it's kind of been, nothing's been really said that they're splitting up or anything like that, but a lot of people are alluding to that, but there's nothing been really said that it's happening. But their charts are telling me something very different, or should I say that there are problems coming that will affect them. And I'm going to talk about that, but also I want to talk about Harry in terms of his father, because I'm seeing some really great difficulty for King Charles through the son's chart. And I actually will be showing you Prince William as well, because when you see it in both the children's charts, you know. And I have seen difficulty in his chart. But it's interesting that sometimes you can see more of this in family members' charts. But one way or another, we're going to get a clear picture of what's been going on with Meghan and Prince Harry. So with that, I'd like to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter. If you are not getting my free newsletter, you're missing out. I give predictions every week, written, sent to your email address. Go to galacticcenter.org, try it out. I know you're going to love it. And then while you're there, check out my Patreon page if you want to be part of a spiritual community. Find like-minded people, join. We meet weekly. We get grounded with each other every week. It's fantastic. You'll love it. Furthermore, don't forget that if you want your own predictions, such as like what I'm doing with these charts today for your own chart, get my Galactic Planner. It's amazing. It will give you all of your personal predictions and delivers it into your calendar. You can be guided by the stars daily. All right, last but not least, if this inspires you to learn Vedic astrology, go to my university website. I have the best online school out there. We have a community of amazing astrologers. Check it out, universityofvedicastrology.com. Now let me scoot over here and let me show you. We're going to first put the chart up of Meghan Markle. And looking at her chart, I find that she has, you know, she is a serious-minded woman. She is. She's got the moon conjunct Saturn, and it's in Virgo. She worries excessively, and she can go into bouts of depression at times, but thank goodness she's got Jupiter there to protect her. She has a Cancer rising, and with a Cancer rising, you're hyper sensitive. So all that's put out in the media about her, she is deeply affected. But, you know, you got to know that if you're going to be marrying somebody like royalty, you're going to be in the news. But looking at her relationship, her marriage, I can't help but notice that Saturn in the sky right now has just shifted into Pisces. Yes, I use the sidereal zodiac. So if you're thinking otherwise, that's because you're thinking Western astrology. Vedic astrology is more predictive. But regardless, Saturn is going to be opposing her moon very soon. That can represent breakups. Why? because it's in the 7th house from the moon. Remember how I always tell you guys to always look at a chart from the moon as the ascendant, as the 1st house. So anytime planets go to the 7th house from the moon, it's really difficult for relationships. This is like separation. Saturn rules separation. Yes, it is opposing her moon, and it will oppose her Saturn because her moon Saturn are almost exactly conjunct. And when Saturn opposes Saturn, if you'll look, Saturn happens to rule her 7th house from her ascendant in Cancer. Now go to her 7th house. She has K2 in the 7th. And this is very difficult for the most part, usually for marriage, unless there's other things aspecting it. K2 it can be someone very spiritual, but most of the time, it's someone that causes losses and complications and drains your energy a lot when K2 is in the 7th house. But aside from that, I mean, this is like, I think this is her 2nd marriage. She's been married before. K2 probably really represented the 1st marriage more, but she hasn't been that happy in marriage with K2 in the 7th. But here's what I'm really seeing. Recognize and realize that transiting Pluto in the heavens is going back and forth on her K2. Pluto is power, control and power, and does deal with manipulation and power. Let me just say this. When you're married to royalty, the King of England's son, that is extreme power. And power is controlling her. And let me just say this, the monarchy in England is one of the most powerful organizations in the world. And this is what is on top of her. There is a lot of problems for her dealing with these powerful people in alignment with her marriage. This is huge. Now, there is some other, there's so many stressful things going on in her chart. Not only do we have Pluto in her 7th house of marriage, Pluto can be death and endings too, don't forget that. But the transit of K2, which is many times can deal with losses and endings, yes, it's going to be crossing over her Venus. And Venus is the planet of love and relationships. So I am seeing that K2 will cross over her natal Venus by December 4th, this year, 2025. And then I am seeing really the worst part of it of all, although Pluto is back and forth on her K2 right now and for the next year, which these forces she's dealing with, are over the top power. Power, manipulative, and controlling. She thinks she might have power, but these forces against her are more powerful. Now, Saturn, remember the eclipse that happened in the end of March. That solar eclipse was around 15 degrees of Pisces. And therefore, the eclipse was happening in the 7th house from the moon. 7th house is marriage. Eclipses represent radical big changes. So basically, everyone truly that does have a moon in Virgo is going to go through some relationship stuff. Healing, transformational, but major changes. And it can also mean that the partner, your marriage partner, goes through these radical shifts and changes. Yes, so this is huge. Furthermore, let me show you some other things that are radically extreme that's going on for her. So Jupiter in a woman's chart all by itself can represent the marriage partner. So with Saturn opposing Jupiter, Saturn opposing her Saturn, and the eclipse was opposed her Jupiter Saturn, and actually her moon, you better believe that she's in for some serious things with her marriage. And if it survives this, I would be shocked. Everything in her chart is really pointing to a split in her marriage. Let me say that. Okay, let's put up Prince Harry. I did a video a while ago about his chart when they first came together. And transiting Neptune was exactly opposing his sun at 29 degrees of Leo. Plus Saturn was there pretty much too. So let me just say this, the sun is your life force, but the sun in a chart is always going to be your father. It's the indicator of the father. And therefore, with Neptune being on the sun, his father very much disapproved of this marriage. Saturn came up and opposed the sun. This would have been actually right around the time of the eclipse too, which was March of 2025. But aside from his marriage and relationship, his father is a lot sicker than they are putting out to us. Why do I say that? Because when Rahu and Ketu shift signs, and they will shift signs around May 29th, this year, 2025. When they shift signs, that means Rahu and Ketu are going to be at 29 degrees of Aquarius and Leo. Ketu will be 29 degrees of Leo. Notice where Harry's sun sits. 29 degrees of Leo. Now, this also means he's having great issues, not only with his father's health, but the whole relationship with his father. This is devastating. This is a loss of his life force, and this is a loss of his father. And it probably means the guilt that he feels that he's disconnected with the family. Because I'm also seeing some very interesting things in his brother's chart, Prince William. We'll get to that in just a minute. But let me go back to where that sun is in Prince Harry's chart. The sun, number one, is the karaka of the father. Karaka means indicator of the father. And it is in the 9th house. In Vedic sidereal astrology, we look at the 9th house as the father, not the 10th. It is the 9th. Plus, the sun rules Leo. So this is a triple pointer to the father, because it's in the 9th house of the father, it's on the sun that rules the father, and the sun is ruler of the 9th house because the sun rules Leo. So Ketu on the sun, this is hugely pointing to the father. Now, some other things that I see pointing back to the time that he met and married Meghan, Neptune was opposing his sun. And I always say Neptune is like a spell has been cast over you. And once that Neptune moves away, the spell starts to lift. And you start thinking, what in the world was I thinking? I did a video on that. Now things are really starting to heat up as we're looking at moving forward, looking at his transiting planets. Well, when we look at where K2 is going, it will eventually, after it conjuncts the sun, it will move further to cross over his natal Mercury. And really the whole time it is in Leo, it's approaching these planets and affecting them. Doesn't just happen that day that it hits that planet. But by the time that K2 does hit Mercury, that will be May of 2026. So basically I'm going to say 2026, around the same time with Meghan's chart, probably March through May. Look out. This is serious business. Because here's why Mercury is important in Prince Harry's chart. It rules his 7th house of marriage. K2 is losses. It will be conjunct his Mercury, which rules his marriage partner. So all at the same time, there are major events happening in Meghan's chart at the same time. And transiting Saturn, I might add, for Prince Harry is in Pisces, which means it's in opposition to his Venus in Virgo. Venus is the marriage partner, especially in a man's chart. It represents the wife. Saturn is severing that relationship. It is coming up closer and closer to his Venus, which in Meghan's chart, it looks definitely more challenging, but there is so much going on in this chart. And one more thing that Prince Harry has going on is transiting Uranus. Will be on his Rahu throughout this year. And actually, looking at his transits, it's going to be coming up here by this, I'm going to say August, September, and all of next year. It will be on and off. What is Uranus on his Rahu? It represents sudden, unexpected events, but crises. The Great Awakener, that's Uranus. And Rahu happens to sit in his 2nd house from his natal moon. And the 2nd house, I failed to mention this looking at Meghan's chart, but the 2nd house can be, believe it or not, it's family, it's money. When you have malefics in the 2nd house from the moon or the ascendant, means you had a very difficult childhood. His mother died. Rahu in the 2nd from the moon. But with Uranus crossing over Rahu in the 2nd house, it means a major event to the family. And I think this deals with divorce and the loss of his father. But I might add one more thing. For those of you that are very good with Vedic astrology, the 2nd house can actually be the house of divorce. Do you know why? It is the 8th house from the 7th. 7th house is marriage, and 8 placements from that means the end of the marriage, and that's the 2nd house. And just for those of you that don't know absolutely anything of what I just said, this simply means Uranus on his Rahu can represent divorce too. That's what it equates to. And when you look at Meghan Markle's chart, you're going to see that she has Venus in the 2nd house from her moon. K2's going to be on it. And K2 is endings. The 2nd house, like I said, can be divorce. So K2 being in the 2nd house transiting could be the end of the marriage. Now, it doesn't mean this for everyone, but with everything else considered, it does. And one more thing, with Harry having a Sagittarius ascendant, this means that K2 is in his 9th house, regardless if there's any planets there. The 9th house is the father, and with K2 being there, it can mean the decline or the loss of a father. All right, let's put up Prince William's chart, because we should be seeing something similar in accordance to the father. So putting up Prince William's chart, he also has Sagittarius as his ascendant sign. Therefore, K2 is in his 9th house of the father as well. So a decline and loss of the father. K2 in the 9th, there are no planets there, but regardless, it still is affecting what the 9th house is all about. Now, transiting Saturn, now that it is in Pisces, is opposing Prince William's Mars. Do you know that in Vedic astrology, we look at Mars as the Karaka for siblings? And that is his only sibling, that's his brother, Mars. And it's also said many times to be the younger brother, and that's what this is. So as Saturn is in opposition to Mars, which represents in Prince William's chart, Prince Harry, means there's major problems for Prince Harry. And with oppositions, it could deal with divorce. But overall, it's also a contentious ending of their relationship. Saturn opposing Mars. It doesn't even matter what house Mars is in. It is the indicator for siblings. But transiting Saturn is in Prince William's 4th house of family. And there's great difficulty. And here's the other thing I might add. Transiting Saturn is squaring both Prince William's sun and moon. The sun is the father. And this happens throughout this year. Repeatedly, Saturn will be 6 and 7 degrees the whole year. As a matter of fact, yes, Saturn is there now. But it will be back and forth, aspecting the sun. The sun is the father. And in his chart, it also rules the 9th house. But in Gemini, Jupiter is there. So you know what I think this can mean? With Jupiter being there and Saturn aspecting it, the end of his father, but the beginning of him being the king. It's coming sooner than you think. And what's so fascinating about Prince William's chart, as well as his father's chart, King Charles, they were both born under lunar eclipses. No, actually, I take that back. Solar eclipses. Especially, I don't have King Charles. I know he was born under an eclipse. I think his was a lunar eclipse. Don't quote me on that, but he was definitely born under an eclipse. And Prince William is born under a solar eclipse. Excuse me, I said lunar. Solar eclipse. That is enormous power. And as transiting Jupiter and Saturn, both aspect, both his sun and his moon, this is a year of enormous transformation and change. The whole time that Jupiter is transiting in Gemini, but especially in 2025, we're going to see some serious problems for King Charles based on both of his sons' charts. So the royal family is in for some major events. Things are going to change radically this year. I think I can put out there's going to be major problems for Meghan and Prince Harry. I don't know that they'll make it past the March through May. It could happen way before that of 2026 because there's repeatedly difficult aspects that keep hitting. So they're dealing with that. Plus, in both of the children's charts, it says that King Charles, his health is declining. And there's going to be a big change this year with that. Actually, in my predictions for 2025, I also predicted that, looking at King Charles' chart, that his health he was going to have serious problems this year. And let's just say we hope he survives, okay? Because there is a lot of stress going on in all of these charts. And you know, sometimes people can make it past these difficult problems, but at least we know what they have to contend with and how they should be working to avert as much as they can, if they can. So with that, I think I'll close. If you would like more information on me, you can go to my website, galacticcenter.org. Sign up for my free newsletter, check out Patreon, and of course the Galactic Planner. You're going to want that so you'll know what your transits are for your life so you can avert things and take advantage of great opportunities in your chart. And last but not least, if this has inspired you to learn Vedic astrology, go to my university website, become my student. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.